How about Jake? What do you think of Jake?
Clown.
Yeah.
He's a clown. But I know that Jake can't fight.
Can't fight.
He can't fight.
There's the rigged fights rumor. He's the one that started the steroids rumor. So
yeah, he did have all of us thinking that you was rigging those fights. Though I ain't gonna lie, he right about that.
But how did you
How
honestly
could he rig a
believe
fight?
that? You honestly believe that?
I wanted to believe it when you fought Woodley.
But me, I'm going to speak my mind. I'm just going to keep it 100, man. Jake Paul is fugazi. He's fake.
That's how you feel.
Truly feel. I'll bust him up and his trainer in the same night. 2 for 1.
Gervonta Davis took aim at Jake Paul after new accusations surfaced suggesting Paul's bouts are staged. Davis openly challenged Paul's credibility as a boxer, insisting that Jake lacks the ability to compete at a true professional standard. He mocked Paul as a showman who relies on publicity and strategically selected opponents instead of genuine boxing talent. Davis's comments reflect the rising backlash against Paul and underline the clear gap between proven champions and fighters driven by social media.
I was training for something like this. Obviously, smaller guy. How was this in the training aspect, Jake?
Yeah, just a lot of punching down, practicing, hitting below my knees, and a lot of speed.
He warming up.
We're
now.
sparring.
That's what we need.
We're sparring.
Warm up.
Some
I know
8-year-olds. I got the 8-year-olds in there.
If I find out anything, I'm going to beat your ass and I'm going to beat Jaden Love ass. On my mama, I'm going to beat both of y'all ass. On my mama. And he laughing. He laughing.
What are you talking about?
What
does he have to do with this?
Let anything, you know what I'm talking about. Let anything. Nah, I don't have to say it right now. Don't worry about it. I don't got to say it up here. Let anything happen. And I'm going to show you and him.
Jake Paul responded to accusations that his fights are scripted, dismissing the claims as ridiculous and pointing out that fight fixing is both illegal and impractical. He argued that no serious or respected boxer would ever agree to deliberately lose a bout. Paul stated that these rumors are fueled by hatred and confusion, and said he often tries to understand why some people are so committed to believing them. He emphasized that there is no truth behind the allegations, adding that those pushing the fake fight, the ongoing talk of a possible showdown between Gervonta Davis and Jake Paul, has always hovered between entertainment and true competition. During a press event linked to their exchange of words, Davis made it clear that rules and limitations are what separate a controlled performance from a real fight. He implied that if a bout were to happen without restrictions, scripts, or careful oversight, the result would be obvious on its own. The message was clear. Davis portrayed himself as a fighter who relies on pure skill rather than protection or manipulation, emphasizing freedom in the ring. At that point, the difference between a career forged through legitimate competition and one shaped by carefully managed opportunities stood out unmistakably. Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis were once scheduled to face each other, but the bout was ultimately cancelled, igniting lasting tension between the two. Since the fight fell apart, their rivalry has continued to simmer, with the unresolved matchup keeping the feud alive in boxing circles. Roy Jones Jr. claimed that Jake Paul was fully aware of Gervonta Davis's past controversies yet still chose to move forward with the fight. According to Jones, those issues were not new and had been known for quite some time. He noted that when a new lawsuit emerged, Jake abruptly backed out, reacting as if the situation came as a surprise, even though the legal troubles already existed beforehand. Jones argued that Jake Paul knew exactly what he was dealing with when the fight was first signed, pointing out that this was not the first time Davis had faced such accusations. He criticized Jake for later attacking Davis publicly, saying it was unfair to act shocked after knowingly agreeing to the bout. In Jones's view, Davis was already going through a difficult period in his life and should not have been treated that way when the circumstances were already clear from the start. Meanwhile, Tim Bradley offered no restraint when he openly criticized Jake Paul, branding him as artificial and questioning the competitive authenticity of his fights. Bradley was direct, stating that despite Paul's massive hype and promotional success, the level of opponents he faces does not measure up to true professional boxing standards. He argued that Paul's career has been driven more by spectacle than by legitimate challenges, which explains why many veteran fighters and boxing purists remain doubtful of his credibility,
people
as a real
online
boxer.
think how could
Bradley's
someone be
remarks
so
underline
dumb?
a major
I still
debate
don't
in
get
modern
I think
boxing,
people
whether
wanted to
social
believe
media
that. That's what
popularity
they
should
did.
earn the
just
same
talking
respect
about.
as lifelong
Let- let-
dedication
what does he have to
inside
do
the
with
ring.
this? Let anything-
Although Bradley acknowledged
You know what I'm
Jake
talking
Paul's
about.
business
Let
savvy and
anything.
ability to
Let
draw
anything.
attention,
Nah, I
he
don't have
made
to
it
say it right
clear
now.
that he personally is not
Don't worry
fooled by
about
the
it. I don't
image.
gotta say it up here.
In his
Let
view,
anything
Paul may
happen.
generate money,
And I'ma
debate,
show you
and viewership,
and him.
but that does not make him the face of boxing, a title reserved for fighters who have dedicated their lives to the sport. Still, Bradley admitted that when Paul fights, it creates buzz, fuels arguments, and attracts audiences. Ultimately, he described Paul's bouts not as pure sporting contests, but as major events designed to entertain. Amid the speculation, Nikisa Bidarian stepped in to address rumors surrounding Jake Paul's high-profile fight with Anthony Joshua. Social media had been flooded with claims that the bout was fixed or scripted for entertainment value. Bidarian strongly rejected those accusations, insisting that neither Jake Paul nor his team manipulated the fight in any way. He stated that the idea of the Paul-Joshua fight being pre-planned was completely false, aiming to shut down the conspiracy theories surrounding the matchup. Claims that the fight was prearranged were firmly rejected as completely untrue. This clarification mattered because many fans were quick to accuse promoters and fighters of engineering a fixed outcome to generate hype and attention. Nikisa Bidarian's comments shut down those conspiracy theories, reaffirming that the bout was handled as a legitimate sporting contest. Despite widespread chatter about scripts and rigging, questions remained about whether such talk would finally die down after Jake Paul suffered a broken jaw against Anthony Joshua. Bidarian made it clear that it would not, revealing that their legal team is actively pursuing individuals spreading false claims online. He cited one viral post, allegedly shared by someone claiming to be a lawyer, which suggested there was an agreement for Anthony Joshua not to knock out Jake Paul, a claim Bidarian described as shocking and absurd. Even figures like Lou DiBella were mentioned in connection with posting exaggerated accusations, further fueling misinformation. Bidarian strongly denied suggestions that Joshua held back or pulled punches, stressing that the fight was fully real. To eliminate any lingering doubt, he confirmed there were never any agreements about limiting rounds or controlling the outcome. According to him, throughout Jake Paul's entire career, no fight has ever involved scripted conditions, and the Joshua bout was no different. He added that it was astonishing anyone would believe such claims, especially since Anthony Joshua himself had publicly stated that failing to finish the fight early would be a disappointment. Although narratives shifted closer to fight night and after the bout, expectations had been clear that Joshua would dominate. What happened in the ring reinforced that reality. Jake Paul was brutally knocked out by Anthony Joshua, suffering a broken jaw in the process. Ariel Helwani weighed in, saying the result was entirely predictable. In his view, Joshua, a seasoned world-class heavyweight, was always expected to win, and there was nothing controversial about the outcome. The stoppage highlighted the massive gap between an elite champion and a fighter still relatively new to boxing's highest level. Helwani argued that the fight demonstrated how Paul's past performances were not reliable indicators of his ability to compete against someone of Joshua's caliber. He admitted he was unsure whether the fight would end quickly or last several rounds, given Joshua's size, reach, and power. Every punch carried danger, and a quick knockout would not have been surprising. Still, Helwani noted that Paul lasting 6 rounds could be viewed as a small moral victory, even if the bout itself was far from a classic. Ultimately, the matchup felt surreal to many observers, an unlikely spectacle unfolding in real time, blurring the line between entertainment and elite competition. There was considerable pressure on Anthony Joshua for a couple of reasons. He was coming off a previous knockout loss, which hadn't been emphasized enough during the build-up to this fight. After such a defeat, a fighter tends to be cautious, even a bit gun-shy, and Joshua hadn't competed in roughly 15 months. That gap likely made him wary of making a mistake, jeopardizing his career, or tarnishing his legacy. At times during the fight, he seemed to be aiming carefully, almost headhunting, which isn't his usual style, leading to a few swings that missed and momentarily frustrated him. However, this wasn't Joshua playing around. He did attack the body at times, though observers wondered why he didn't target the head more aggressively when openings appeared. After the fight, media commentator Luke Thomas emerged as one of the most critical voices, taking issue with the praise Jake Paul received for stepping into the ring with Joshua. Thomas argued that simply facing an elite boxer shouldn't automatically earn Paul admiration. He insisted that fans and analysts examine what the fight truly showed. Paul was clearly outclassed, stopped, and exposed the limits of his boxing skills against a top-tier opponent. In Thomas's view, the applause Paul received was premature and deserved a more critical assessment, even if surviving the bout feeds into a narrative that he might be slightly more capable than perceived. Thomas added that some people were overreacting to the fight. There were claims online that it was the worst performance ever, with critics saying Joshua should have ended it sooner. While Joshua wasn't holding back intentionally or coordinating the fight beforehand, he didn't always fully extend his attacks, partly because Paul was evasive and rotated effectively around the ring, and partly because Joshua recognized Paul's awkward footwork, making it hard to maintain constant pressure. Former UFC fighter and MMA analyst Chael Sonnen also expressed strong doubts about the logic of matching Jake Paul, with only 11 professional fights, against a decorated Olympic medalist and elite heavyweight like Anthony Joshua. Sonnen explained that, under normal boxing standards, fighters build their careers gradually, facing progressively tougher opponents before taking on a world-class champion. Paul's rapid rise, fueled largely by social media fame and lucrative opportunities, bypassed this traditional path, creating an accelerated trajectory that would rarely happen in conventional boxing. Sonnen's critique highlights the broader discussion around celebrity influence in combat sports, where marketability and entertainment can sometimes overshadow actual skill and merit. Chael Sonnen pointed out that while Jake Paul's rapid rise opened doors to major fights, it also threatens competitive fairness and the integrity of boxing. The stark contrast between Paul's limited professional experience and Anthony Joshua's accomplishments highlights how unconventional matchmaking can challenge traditional expectations and leave fans questioning the logic behind such mismatched contests. Many observers felt that the bout wasn't a true boxing match. Jake Paul entered the ring with a genuine fear for his safety, constantly moving, creating distance, and trying to navigate the fight strategically to avoid serious harm. At times, he advanced to strike but had to retreat to protect himself. The fight escalated to moments where he was forced to engage fully, including clinching, dropping to his knees, and maneuvering below the waist, ultimately fighting purely for survival. It was a raw, almost primal display, with Paul simply trying to make it through the rounds rather than dominate his opponent. The intensity and struggle were remarkable, and for many, it was an incredible spectacle, even if Anthony Joshua didn't finish him in the first round. Dave Portnoy commented before the fight, saying he liked Jake Paul and wished him well, but he backed Anthony Joshua, emphasizing that boxing is a serious sport. He noted that someone with only 11 professional fights cannot realistically compete with an Olympic champion. Not everyone dismissed Paul though. Former UFC champion Daniel Cormier praised Jake Paul for his courage in stepping into the ring against a far heavier and more experienced opponent. Cormier acknowledged the massive risk, particularly given that Paul had spent most of his career facing lighter fighters. He joked that anyone would take a $100 million payday, but also recognized the bravery required to face one of boxing's biggest names regardless of the outcome. The discussion surrounding Jake Paul's fight with Anthony Joshua sparked strong opinions across the boxing world. Critics questioned Paul's legitimacy in matchmaking, while others acknowledged his fearlessness in stepping into uncharted territory. The fight ignited debates about the future of boxing, the influence of celebrity in combat sports, and what it truly means to earn respect in a sport built on skill and merit rather than attention. In a lighter moment, Jake Paul's brother, Logan Paul, received praise for his athleticism and performance in WWE. Observers noted that he is not only skilled in the ring but also excels at cutting promos, showing remarkable versatility as both a performer and athlete. Logan Paul's achievements underscore the family's presence in combat sports and entertainment. When asked about safety for Jake Paul against Anthony Joshua, it was revealed that there were essentially no safeguards in place. Paul would simply fight Joshua, a man significantly heavier than Gervonta Davis, his previous opponent. Paul ran a lot during the bout, a strategic choice that drew comparisons to other fighters like Francis, who didn't move as effectively in past matchups. Joshua treated the fight seriously, taking no chances, which contributed to the outcome of the match. The fight ended up being a dramatic and intense contest that left fans and analysts debating Paul's abilities, his strategy, and the broader implications of celebrity-driven matchups in professional boxing.